I told my brother his girlfriend only likes him for his money in front of her. I, 27F, have a younger brother, 25M, who, for most of our lives, I've been ridiculously protective over. We grew up super close, the kind of siblings who had our own in-jokes and could team up against our parents if needed, but also the kind who could argue like cats in a sack. He's been dating his girlfriend, Melissa, 24F, for about 9 months. I met her early on, and let's just say my first impression wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. I told myself to keep my mouth shut because I know how it sounds when you immediately judge someone your sibling is dating. But I also know my brother. I know the kind of person he usually clicks with. And she didn't quite fit the pattern. There's also one key detail that's kind of important for the rest of the story. My brother came into a fair bit of money about 3 years ago. It's not private island rich, but it's buys a new car in cash without thinking twice rich. He works hard, yes, but the money didn't come just from his job. There's some inheritance involved, which is fine. Totally fine. Except it's made him really attractive to a certain type of person, and I've seen those types before. Anyway, all of that is the background noise leading up to the big scene. And yeah, I might have let that background noise get way too loud in my head before I actually exploded at her, in front of him, and in front of a table full of people. So, to understand why this blew up the way it did, you kind of have to understand me and my brother's history. We're only 2 years apart, so we were in each other's pockets growing up. I was the responsible one, at least according to my parents, but in reality, I was just better at looking like I had my act together. My brother was the wild one, the kid who'd get caught sneaking out, showing up to school with a black eye from some dumb skateboarding stunt, or blowing his allowance on video games. Even though we fought like mad sometimes, he once hid my phone charger for a week just to teach me a lesson after I ate the last of his cereal. I was always protective. I was there to patch him up, bail him out, or talk him down. He, in turn, trusted me more than almost anyone else, which is why what's happening now feels so strange and foreign. The money thing changed a lot. About 3 years ago, after our grandmother passed away, he inherited a decent sum. He also got a boost from some smart crypto investments. I don't understand them, and honestly, I think they're witchcraft. It meant that he went from living in a one-bedroom apartment with thrift store furniture to buying a two-bedroom condo in the nicest part of town and filling it with brand new everything. Don't get me wrong, I was happy for him. He's worked hard since then, too, so it's not like he's coasting entirely. But the shift was sudden, and it definitely changed the type of people who started showing interest in him. Enter Melissa. I met her at a family brunch a few weeks into the relationship. She's gorgeous, like cover model, knows her angles, Instagram perfect, gorgeous. Friendly enough, very confident, and very into talking about travel, luxury brands, and manifesting abundance. Her words. I remember the first thing she said to me after "nice to meet you" was, "Your brother has such great taste. His watch is stunning." That stuck with me. Not because it's inherently bad to compliment someone, but because of how she said it. Like the watch was the main event and he was just wearing it. I tried to tell myself I was reading too much into it, but there was this undercurrent. Something in the way she'd ask him about his job, or about his investments, or casually bring up that amazing vacation you could totally take me on. Still, I bit my tongue because that's what you do when you want your sibling to be happy, right? At first, the little moments were just that. Little. Easy to brush off, easy to file under, not worth the drama. Like the time we were all out for dinner and she ordered the most expensive thing on the menu without even glancing at the prices. Not a crime, obviously. But when the bill came, she made the show of not reaching for her wallet, laughing and saying, "Well, you've got this one right, babe." Right, babe. I could feel my jaw tightening with every word, but I kept smiling because, I don't know, I didn't want to look like the jealous, judgmental sister. It wasn't just the money talk. It was how she performed their relationship in front of other people. Like, we'd be at a barbecue with friends, and she'd tell this story about him surprising her with a spa day. But it wasn't really about the sweet gesture. It was about dropping the name of the spa, the price, and how it was such a step up from the places I used to go. I started to notice how often she compared what he gave her to what other guys gave their girlfriends, always in a way that made him look like the prize she had finally scored. Every time I saw them, there was some new example: a designer bag just because, an upgrade to first class for their flight, jewelry for no reason other than Melissa looked at it too long in the store. Now, I know some people will say, that's just love languages. But here's the thing: I never once heard her brag about him in any other way. Not about his humor, his kindness, his weird obsession with documentaries about space. It was always about what he bought or could buy. I tried to bring it up with him once. We were grabbing coffee and I said something like, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're happy with her and not just, keeping her happy with gifts." He shut it down instantly, got defensive. "You don't know her like I do. She's not like that." So I backed off. But in the back of my mind, I was waiting for the moment where I couldn't ignore it anymore. Spoiler, that moment came faster than I expected. The event that everything blew up at was my mom's birthday dinner. She'd booked a table at this nice Italian place she loves, the kind of place where they have actual cloth napkins and a dessert cart that feels like it's out of a 1950s movie. It wasn't super formal, but it was a put on something nice and be polite to the waiters kind of night. I had been in a weird headspace all week leading up to it. My brother had mentioned, in passing, that he'd just helped Melissa put down a deposit on a new car. Not loaned her money, helped her buy it. She doesn't have a full-time job. She does some freelance social media work, which is fine, but it's not exactly a steady income. I tried to keep my opinion to myself, but the little voice in my head was screaming, "Why is he doing this? Why is she letting him?" So by the time we got to the restaurant, I was already primed for irritation. Melissa showed up in this stunning dress, I'll give her that. But before even sitting down, she was telling my aunt how my brother had bought it for her just for tonight because she didn't have anything fancy enough. My brother was beaming like it was the most romantic gesture in the world. The first half hour was fine. We ordered drinks, made small talk. But Melissa, she kept steering the conversation back to things they'd bought or trips they were planning. At one point, she actually said to my mom, "You should let my brother take you to Paris. He's so generous, it's ridiculous." Honestly, I think I'm rubbing off on him. I'm all about the finer things. I swear, my mom's smile got just a fraction tighter. I felt my stomach twist. Then came the kicker. We were talking about possible family vacations next year, and Melissa cut in to say, "Well, as long as we're not going somewhere cheap. I mean, once you've flown first class, it's kind of impossible to go back." She laughed like it was a harmless joke. I don't know what it was about that comment. Maybe because it wasn't just bragging, it was a dig at anything less than luxury, like that was the standard for our whole family now. Maybe because I could see my brother looking at her like she'd just said something adorable. Maybe because I'd been swallowing my irritation for months and my tolerance finally ran out. All I know is that the next few minutes changed everything. I wish I could say I paused, took a deep breath, and considered my words carefully. I didn't. Melissa had just finished her "once you've flown first class" comment, and my brother was grinning at her like she'd said the cutest thing in the world. I could feel my pulse in my ears. I think I even tightened my grip on my wine glass to stop my hands from shaking, not out of fear, but from the effort it took not to say something snippy. But then she turned to me and said, "You know what I mean, right? You wouldn't want to go back to budget travel either." That was it. That was the crack in the dam. I laughed, not the polite, like, "oh, ha ha" kind, more of a sharp, incredulous laugh that made my mom glance at me in warning. And then, before I could stop myself, I said, Melissa, I think you're with my brother because of his money, not because of him. The table went silent so fast, it was like someone had pressed mute on the whole restaurant. Melissa froze mid-smile. My brother's expression went from confusion to something darker in about half a second. Melissa finally said, "Excuse me?" in this clipped, icy tone that made my skin crawl. I doubled down. "I've been watching you for months, and everything you talk about, everything you brag about, is what he buys you or what he can afford. I've never once heard you talk about loving him for who he is, just for what he gives you." My brother pushed back his chair like he was about to stand up. He said, "What the hell is your problem?" in this low but furious voice. Melissa's face went pale, then red, then pale again. She said, "Wow." She laughed once in disbelief. "You're actually accusing me of being a gold digger in front of your whole family?" My mom tried to smooth it over, saying, "Let's just focus on dinner." But the damage had already been done. Melissa picked up her clutch, stood up, and said to my brother, "I'm not staying here to be insulted." She left, just walked out. My brother followed her without looking back. The rest of us sat there in a kind of stunned silence. My aunt started buttering her bread like nothing had happened. My mom sighed like she had aged 10 years in 30 seconds. I just stared at the door, my heart pounding, wondering what the hell I'd just done. The rest of that dinner felt like eating in a vacuum. Every sound was too loud. The clink of cutlery, the shuffle of the waiter clearing plates, the soft background music that suddenly felt obnoxious. Nobody really spoke. My mom tried to make a bit of small talk with my aunt, but it was forced and brittle. After about 20 minutes, my phone buzzed. A text from my brother. "That was completely out of line. Don't talk to me until you can apologize." No emojis. No punctuation beyond the period at the end, which in our family is basically like getting a legal notice. I typed out 3 different responses, one defensive, one sarcastic, one apologetic, and deleted them all. I decided to just not respond. At least, not right then. When we left the restaurant, my mom pulled me aside in the parking lot. She didn't yell. She just said, "You could have waited until it was just the two of you." Her voice was tired, not angry. That somehow made me feel worse. The next morning, I woke up to a string of missed calls from my brother and a couple of shorter ones from Melissa's number, which I didn't pick up. Then came the text from Melissa herself. "I don't know what your issue is with me, but you've made it very clear you're jealous. Don't contact me again." Blocked me right after sending it. Later that day, my brother finally called again. I answered. It wasn't a conversation so much as him telling me, point by point, why I was wrong. Melissa loves him and has been there for him in ways I don't understand. Yes, he buys her nice things, but that's what you do when you're in a relationship. He's disappointed in me for humiliating him in front of our family. When I tried to explain my side, he cut me off. "You're making this about you. It's not about you." Then he hung up. Over the next few days, I noticed the shift in the family. My aunt texted me privately to say she kind of agreed with me, but that I should have handled it better. My mom stayed neutral, but kept saying things like, "He'll cool off eventually." My brother and I didn't talk again for a week, and when we did, it was just a short text exchange about a logistical thing. No warmth, no jokes, no sibling shorthand. And honestly, that hurt way more than I expected. The silence between us was deafening. I kept replaying the moment over and over. Her laugh, my words, the look on my brother's face. At first, every time I thought about it, I felt this flare of righteous anger. Like, no, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't just making this up. I'd seen the patterns and I'd called them out. But the longer the days stretched on without hearing from him, the more the anger started to curdle into guilt. Not regret for what I said. If I'm being honest, I still believe every word. But the how, the where, that part started to gnaw at me. Was it fair to do it in front of our mom, our aunt, the waiter who probably just wanted to drop off the breadsticks and leave? Was I just trying to embarrass her or embarrass him? I thought about the times I had accused him of being reckless when we were teenagers. He'd get defensive then too. Maybe this was just history repeating itself, me trying to protect him in a way that actually felt more like controlling him. And yeah, I had to consider the ugly possibility that I was biased. I never trusted people who seem overly impressed by wealth. My dad's second wife was a walking cautionary tale about what happens when you ignore those instincts. Maybe I was projecting some of that onto Melissa without giving her a fair shot. But then I'd remember things. The way she'd flash her ring in group photos, the casual digs at anything less than luxury, the constant, "you could buy that" comments. And I'd feel that rush of frustration all over again. I started to wonder if maybe this wasn't about right or wrong, but about strategy. Maybe I could have gotten to him if I'd kept my mouth shut in public and waited until we were alone. But in that moment, with my patience worn paper thin, I didn't want to be strategic. I wanted to be heard. But now, though, I'm wondering if the cost of that being heard might be my relationship with my brother. So, here I am, a week and a half later, sitting in my apartment and staring at my phone like it's some kind of live grenade. My brother and I haven't still had a real conversation. The most we've exchanged is a one-line text about some paperwork he needed me to sign for something unrelated. Melissa is still ignoring me, which I'm fine with, honestly. But now I get the feeling that she's the one controlling how much I get to see my brother. Part of me feels like I did what I had to do. If someone you love is being taken advantage of, shouldn't you speak up? Isn't silence just complicity? But another part of me feels like I turned what could have been a private, honest talk into a public spectacle. I humiliated him in front of our mom, our aunt, and a room full of strangers. That's not exactly protective big sister energy. I keep asking myself, was this about him? Or was this about me? Was I genuinely trying to protect him? Or was I trying to prove I was right? Did I really think calling her out in front of everyone would change anything? Or did I just want her to feel small for making my brother's worth seem tied to his bank account? Now I don't know what to do. Do I apologize even though I still believe she's with him for the wrong reasons? Do I just give him space and wait for whatever is going to happen between them to play out on its own? What if he ends up marrying her? Will this be the thing that means I'm not invited to the wedding? I feel terrible, but a part of me thinks I'm acting like a spoiled child who can't stand not getting her way. So, am I overreacting? Or was I right, just in the wrong way?